Hello, this video will show you how to solve the data mining project. The data mining project asks you to go through this table CSV file, which is a comma separated file, and calculate the averages for each month of Google stock prices. So this is the month of September, and what we're going to be calculating is the average of this data right here for the close stock price. So what we have to do is we have to add up all these numbers and then count the number of days for each month and then calculate the average. That's what our program is going to do. So if you looked at table CSV inside of a spreadsheet program like Excel, it would look like this. If you opened table CSV in a text file like Notepad or Sublime, what I'm using here, you're going to see that CSV file is a comma separated file, which means that we have a bunch of lines and there's many things that are separated by commas in each line. So that's the comma separated file. Our data, as you see it in Excel, is actually just a bunch of lines of text with comma in between. So what our program is going to do is going to read this file, is going to split it by lines, and then it's going to go and further split each line by commas. So I have already created a file called data mining py. That file is in the same place where my table CSV is saved. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to start by opening my file to read, right? So I have to go and read my table, and there it is. So I'm going to open table CSV, and first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to read whatever the content is in my table, and I'm going to split it by lines. Okay, so how am I going to do this? Like that. Okay, so I'm going to read the file, split it by lines. Python makes it relatively easy. Okay, so that's the first thing I have to do after I open my file, is read it, split it by lines. Okay, so next thing I want to do is there's going to be a whole bunch of lines. How many lines? Oh, I don't know. We can actually look at the text file if you want. Go all the way at the bottom. There's like 1,031 lines. Okay, so if we start at 0 and not at 1, right? Okay, so these are my lines. The first thing I'm going to do is, let me start with showing the first line. Which one is the first line? Well, line 0. So list of lines 0 is going to be my first line. Okay, have a look at that. What should that look like? Well, it should be my first line, which is these labels right here. Okay, so let's have a look at what that looks like if I run it. Run the program, and yeah, those are my labels. Okay, so next thing I want to do is, let's say I wanted to print the second line. Okay, so I'm going to run this again, and what is the second line? Now it's some data, which is it the data that I'm looking for? 919. Okay, good. 449.15, perfect. That's the second line in my text file that I'm seeing here. Okay, the next thing I'm going to do is, why don't I go all the way to the last line? Well, what's the last line? I don't want to go count the lines, so I'm going to go do this. I'm going to say the length of list of lines minus 1, right? That's always the last element on a list of things. The length of the list minus 1. Okay, when I look at that, that hopefully will show me the last line. Okay, and is this the last line? Well, why don't I go have a look at my little CSV file. Last line is correct. That's the one. 0819. And okay, so now you can see that I can read the file. I can split it into lines. Okay, next thing that I need to do is I need to go after each of these lines and split it into pieces. Okay, so what I'm going to do is, why don't I just copy this right here? I like to do this, and I am going to go and just put a multi-line comment so that we know what this thing looks like. All right, there it is. Right, so these are my two print lines. In fact, yeah, I'll leave it there. And yeah, why don't I just take them out, because I don't want to keep seeing them every time I run my program. Okay, so this is my data. What I want to do now is I want to go and get my line elements and I want to go ahead and split it by commas. All right. So what I'm going to do is, let's say I want to get my first line. Right. So I'm going to go in there. I'm going to say, okay, a line is equal to list of lines 1. Right. The 1 was the first one that I had some data. So it's going to be the first one, and let's have a look at what that looks like. So actually, you already know what it looks like. It's just this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to call this line items. Okay, and what I'm going to do to the first line is, okay, I'll do this. A line is equal to this. I'll throw an extra step in there. And then we're going to do a line dot split. We're going to split the line by commas. Okay? So why don't I have a look at what that thing is, right? First thing, when you're doing these data mining assignments, you got to look at the data. So print line items, run that thing. And what do I get? Oh, everything's now in a list. I split this line into a list, and well, now I can extract things from the list. I know that the first thing on my list, the first element or item on my list is the date, and the last one is my data. Okay, so I can go and extract that data, right, in my program. So what am I going to do? I'm going to say, okay, date is equal to line items 0. Okay, and I'm going to say data is equal to line items, the length of line items -1, right? Last thing again, right? That's my data. Why don't I double check? Print date equals date and my data. Okay, let's have a look at if I got it. And did I get the date and the data? Yeah, the date's this. Okay, and that's my data. Okay, but the date now itself needs to be split. Okay, so what am I going to be splitting it by? Well, it looks like it's got dashes, so I'm going to go after the dashes. So why don't I go in there and I'm going to get my data. I'm going to say date split is equal to the date split, and I'm going to be splitting it by dashes. Okay, now you want to double check how the actual file looks in your computer. So you want to be showing these things. On some computers, this data, the date is going to be formatted in different order. The month's going to be first, the year's going to be last. There's different operating systems format these numbers in different ways. Sometimes you're going to see a / and not a dash. Okay, so don't always count on the data to look the way you look at it right here. Even if it's the same CSV file, which it is, the data itself might get scrambled around. So always look at your data. So the next thing I'm going to do now is, as I said, I looked at my data, and this is my date. I'm going to split it by dashes, and then after that split, I'm going to say, okay, the first thing is the year. So I'm going to say year is equal to date split 0. And I'm going to say month is my date split 1. Right? The month is the middle piece. Okay? The last one, 19, that's the date. Okay? Let me double check if I got the month and the date, the year and the month right. So print year and month. Have a look. Okay, so I got an error in here, and the error is, let me just zoom it a little bit. Okay, so the error is date split. Okay, it does not have a split, it's split. There's an L in there. Okay, run again. Okay, so did I get the month right? Yeah. Did I get the year right? Yeah, I got the data right too. Okay, so basically I extracted the information that I wanted from this particular line. Okay, so that's part of the task. Okay, we're going to have to do this for every line. Okay, so it's good for me to establish a pattern for a single line. So I'm going to say something like, all right, this is going to be a single line. All right, that's what this is. And I'm going to throw it right at the end. Okay, so that's just for a single line. Okay, well, we already said that I have like 1,000 something lines in this thing. Okay, so what I have to do is I actually have to look at my CSV file now and try to do something so that I can figure out what I'm going for. Okay, so first thing I'm going to do is so that I don't mess up with the data that I'm working is after I open it with Excel, I'm going to save this thing as the first thing that I want to do is duplicate the table CSV file and work with the new file. The reason for this is I don't want to mess up accidentally my data that I'm going to be mining with my program. For the first month, what I have to do is I have to calculate, and notice I'm working with table 2, not the one that my Python is going to be reading. So I want to figure out the sum. So the sum for every month or every day is going to be equal to, so for the first day is just equal to that number. For the next day it's going to be equal to the previous number plus the next number. Okay, and then the next day it's going to be equal to the previous number plus the next number. Okay, and if you apply this to every one of them until you get to the end of the month, this is the actual sum. Okay. The other thing that your program needs to do is it needs to count the actual days that you have in this month. So if I'm counting this, right, this is going to turn out to be 14 days, and then the average at the end is just equal to these two numbers divided. Okay, so that's the average for the first month, and you can verify this in the assignment as well. And I give you all the numbers for every month. There's about, I think, 50 of them. Okay, so now that we know which number we're going for, we're going to for 437. What we're going to do is we're going to tell our program to repeat the process that I did for one of the lines. So what I did for one of these lines, I'm going to repeat this process for the first 16 lines. Okay, so I'm going to go in there and I'm going to grab the first 16 lines only, and I'm going to calculate what I just showed you in the Excel spreadsheet. Okay, so why don't I just get a loop to go through this. So I'm just going to say for I in range, I'm going to start at 1, and I'm going to go to 16 steps of 1, and the first thing I'm going to do is replicate this process that I had here. So for one of these lines, it was 1, right? For several lines, I'm just going to change this thing to an I. Okay, so I'm just going to copy this thing here. Okay, so this is going to be one of these lines. Instead of a 1, it's going to be an I. And I'm just going to start by showing each of these lines a line. Right? So I just want to see what I'm working with. Again, it helps tremendously if you can see what you're working with. Okay, so how far did it go? It went one too far. It went to month 8. I don't want to go that far. I want to stop at this one, at month 9. So I'm going to go tweak my loop a little bit. I want to make this thing 15. I want to run my program one more time. And this time, now this should stop at the first month, right? So it ended at the line of the, where the first month changes. Okay, so by changes I mean it changes from month 9 to month 8. So I stopped here. The next thing I have to do is I have to calculate the sum. So I just go in there, make a variable sum, make that thing equal to 0. And then what I'm going to do is I have to pull the data just like I did in the previous line. All right, so I have to copy all this. So I have already got the line. So I got to get everything else after that line. Okay, I'm going to get all this stuff here. And I'm going to take this out for a second. Put this here. Okay. All right. I'm going to take out these prints because I don't want to do this. Right. I'm not going to be printing. Oops, not that one. All the prints. Okay. So I don't want to be seeing a whole bunch of stuff. So what I'm going for is I already know from before that I can get the data, right? I can get the last piece here for each of these. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go in there. I'm going to say, all right, my sum is going to be equal to my sum plus the data, okay? Whatever the data is for that month, okay? And if you try to run this like that, you're gonna get an error, okay? And the error is sum is equal to sum plus data, unsupported operand for plus int and string. So it's telling you you're trying to add an integer and a string. Which one is the integer? The integer is my sum. Okay, I started as an integer. So this must be the string. Why is it a string? Because you're reading it from a file, and when you read something from a file, even though it's a number, the program thinks it's a string. So how do I convert this thing from a string to a number? Well, I know it's a float, so I'm just going to cast it into a float, right? And if I really want to be, particular, I want to go and show my sum for every, sum equals sum, and we can have a look at what my sum is for each of the days of the first month. And what I'm going for is these numbers here. Okay, so let's see if I get these numbers if I show my sum in my loop. I run it, and yeah, I got those numbers. Okay, so this is why it's important for you to open this thing in an Excel spreadsheet and make sure the numbers add up. Okay, you're not going to be doing this by hand. You're not going to be doing it in a calculator. Excel is your friend. Okay, so we got the numbers. I now have to also count the days, which is a piece of cake. Similarly, count is equal to 0. And every time I do this, I'm going to have count is equal to count plus 1, right? Also known as count plus equals 1. Okay, and if I run this, and I'm going to show you the count here also. So count equals count. And am I getting the right count? We'll find out. Okay, so at the end, I counted 14 days. Perfect. Which means the average is going to be correct as well. So next step is calculate your average. Right? Average is equal to sum divided by count. And you're done, you would think. But no, not really. That's just the first month. Okay? So what's going to happen if we ran this program, and let me show you the average, right? So that we know it's all done for the first month. So let's say I do average. Okay, if I run this, right, I'm going to get the right average at the end. There you go, 437.70, which is what I got from the Excel spreadsheet, right? Good. Okay, so now the next thing that I'm going to do is I am going to push my limit loop to go into the next month, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to tell this thing, go this far, okay? And what it will do, the next thing that it will do is it will try to apply this to the next number, right? So we'll try to do this. It will try to add this value to the previous, but we don't want to do that, okay? Why? Because we're starting a new month, okay? So when you're starting a new month, what you actually want to do is you want to have this value here to be equal to the first value again. So you're restarting what you did here. Okay, so like, as soon as the month changes, right, you're going to a new month now, then you have to restart just like you did in this line here. Okay, and this is why I had to save this thing as a different file name, because I'm adding a whole bunch of things and that's going to mess up my program. Okay, if I keep reading from this file. Anyway, bottom line is I have to reset my sum as soon as the month changes. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in there and I'm actually going to make a new variable here. I'm going to call I'm going to say old right here when this one is done. I'm going to say, okay, so old month is equal to month, right? So I'm making it equal to that first month. I'm making old month equal to this number initially, the 09. Okay? So what I'm going to do with this is I'm going to keep track of what was my old month. My current month is going to keep changing. This is my current month, right? So the current month is going to keep changing, and my old month is going to stay the same. So if I have my old month is initially 9, right? And it stays as 9. It's 9, 9, 9, 9, 9, 9, 9, 9, 9. It's just, old month is just 9. Okay, how long does it stay as 9? Until the current month changes. So this is your current month, right? And the current month is also 9, 9, 9, 9, 9, 9, 9 for every day. Okay, except when we get to this point, it changes, right? So as soon as this thing happens, okay, you have to do two things. Number one, you got to reset your sum. So as soon as these months stop being the same, this is 8 and this is 9, right? Old month was 9, the new month is 8, right? What we got to do is we got to restart the sum. I got to restart counting, okay? And I also have to restart my old month. So as soon as this happens, I'm going to change my old month to be 8, okay? So all this is when my current month is not equal to the old month. Okay, so first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to say, okay, so so first of all, let me illustrate how this is going to work. So first, 16, change this. Okay, so if I do that, then you're going to notice that it goes to 659, which is not what I want, right? It's adding this number to this number. What I actually want to do is I want to tell it restart counting. So don't do this. Okay, so one thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take out these prints here because I don't want to see this every time. Okay, I want to see the results shown as soon as I go to the next month. So as soon as I get to this one, that's when I'm going to be showing the results for the previous month. Okay, so if my month is not equal to my old month, right, that is when I'm going to be doing, I want to show a couple of things. What I want to show is my year, my month, and my average as soon as the month changes. However, if I run this the way it is, you're going to notice that the average is not what we wanted it to be. It's not 437. And the reason why it's still doing this, and by the way, the month is also wrong, is because we're still doing this even though we have gone to the next month. Okay, so we don't want to be doing this if the 2 months are not equal. Okay, so let's adjust the code a little bit. So I am going to be doing this, count is equal to count plus 1 and sum is equal to sum plus data, only if my month is equal to my old month, right? If they were equal, that is when I'm going to count this thing, that is when I'm going to sum it, and that is when I'm going to be calculating the average. So I'm not going to be doing this unless the 2 months are the same. Okay, now if the 2 months, so now that we have it this way, let's run it one more time, and instead of month here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show old month. Okay, so I'll run this one more time. And now you see that we're having year 2008, month 9 has an average of 437, which is exactly what we wanted. Okay, we can deal with rounding this thing a little bit later. Okay, but the main thing is, even though we push this thing further into the next month, now we can go and push it more days into the next month. Let's say I'm going to go take it to like day 20. And the results should still remain the same because the month haven't changed after that. Okay, so it's showing the same for every time when the months are different. So I don't want this thing to keep repeating. So the next step that I need to do is I need to reset things. Remember that I said that as soon as I go to the next month, I have to do a couple of things. I'm going to restart my sum to be equal to the first data. I'm going to restart my count to start at 1. So the number of days is as 1 at the first date. And I'm also going to reset my old month. I'm going to change my old month to become equal to the new month. Okay, that way we basically reset this mechanism. So what I got to do is, in here, as soon as I do this, I'm going to say that my data, or my sum, is now equal to the float data. Okay, so it's equal to the data of the first day of that month. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to restart my count to be equal to 1. So the first day is just 1 day. And you're going to see that it's still messing up. And the reason for that is because I forgot to reset my month also. So I have to go in there and I have to say that my old month is equal to my current month. Okay, as soon as I do this, if I run the program again, then there it is. It's just a single number for that day. So now the next thing that I'm going to do is I am going to do this for the rest of the file. So I'm just going to go in there. I'm going to say, all right, let's shoot for the stars. So I'm going to say, okay, go for all the lines. The length of list of lines. Is that what I called it? List of lines. List of lines. Okay, so this should go through the entire file. Okay, and let's have a look at how that looks like. If I run this, okay, these are going to be the averages for all the different months except the very last one. Okay, let's have a look at this thing. So if I go into my Excel spreadsheet, right, and if I went all the way to the bottom, right, and you're going to see that the last month is actually this one, month 8, and the one that I'm actually showing is month 9. Right, let's just double check if month 9 was calculated correctly. Right, so all I have to do is I have to figure out if I added up all these correctly. So this one, the first one is equal to this, then the next one is equal to the previous plus the current data, and then when we do this for all of them to the end of the month, then we're going to realize that that's that, and then I'm going to count this thing. Count. If I go ahead and count how many days I have in that, which are from here to here, you're going to see that's 21 days. Then the sum divided by the number of days is 113. And is that what I got? Yeah, I got the 113. Okay, now the problem is I am missing the month underneath. Okay, so it didn't do this. Why did that happen? And the reason that this is happening, it's not showing the last month, is because we told it do this only if the month changes. Okay, but when we get to the last month, the month cannot change from 8 to something else because there's nothing else after that. So what I really need to do is I need to tell it pretty much that if you get to the last line, okay, if I gets to 10,030, that's 1,030, that's the basically where as far as it got. So I'm going to say okay. Or if my I is equal to 1030, which is how many lines we have, right? If you start at 0, okay? If we get all the way to the last one, also do this thing, right? So either if the month changes or you get all the way to the bottom, show the result, okay? So now have a look at this one more time. And now this should be the final, latest and greatest. And the only thing that should be done to this at this point now, so this is your last average for the last month. Of course, we can double check that as well. Let's do our due diligence. So this here is that. Then the next one is equal to the previous plus the current. And then if we apply the formula to all of them, and then if I count the days, if I count it from here to here, that's 9. And if I divide this number divided by this, that is 105. And that's the one I got. Okay. So now, how do you put these in a list? Well, you're not going to be showing this like that, right? Of course, you should round the average to like %.2f, right? Do it, round the average to 2 decimals. And the other thing is, instead of printing it, what you do is you should put it in the list. Okay, so you could have something like list of averages is equal to an empty list, and then every time you do this here, instead of printing it, you're not going to print. What you're going to do is you're going to make a sublist of the information that you have in here. So the sublist is going to be equal to year, old month, and then your average. And then what you got to do is you have to append that to your list of averages. And after you do that, the next thing you have to do is you have to make a loop that goes through the list of averages and shows it to you to make sure that everything is good. And let's have a look at that. So let's zoom into this a little bit. So if I go all the way to the bottom, there it is, 2004, month 9. It gives you that 10526. Okay, so that in a nutshell is your data mining project.